Well, strap yourself in, folks, because this is probably going to be another long one as we attempt to dissect the atrocities that have just occurred in that second leg against Sevilla, and we lose 3-0, which means we lose 5-2 on aggregate, and we are out of the Europa League. And I am once again going to start with something that Erik ten Hag said after the game at Anfield. And that was that performances like this would not happen again while he was in charge. And we're 2 months later? And this is already the second time it's happened. It happened against Newcastle at St James's Park, where on another day we could have been beaten 5 or 6-0. And it's happened again today against Sevilla, where we could have lost 5 or 6-0. And everyone online is already talking about who's to blame for the incidents tonight. Should we be blaming Maguire? Should we be blaming De Gea? Should we be blaming Ten Hag for his decisions in the first leg? Or the referee for booking Bruno Fernandes in the first leg, causing his suspension? But upon full reflection, I've taken a few minutes to recompose myself before hitting record. And the truth is, everyone of a Manchester United persuasion, or everyone employed by Manchester United, is to blame for tonight's performance. From the top level, the board, the Glaziers, through the recruitment system, through to the coaching staff, the manager, and of course the players as well. And we'll start with the opening goal because that is the one that has divided opinions all night long. And I've got the screenshot that everyone's using and we'll discuss the potential options that could have been taken. So, here is David De Gea on the ball and here is Harry Maguire requesting the ball. At this moment in time, Harry Maguire is looking to his right-hand side and he has assessed that there is no left back there, which is true because Diogo Dalot is over here. And here is your first problem. This is your back four. Wan-Bissaka's here, Maguire's here, Lindelof's here, and Dalot is here. So David De Gea has 3 options. He either plays the ball to Harry Maguire as he's requested, but he's surrounded by 3 players. He plays the ball out to Wan-Bissaka, whose only options would be to either clear it, probably out into touch, or play it back to David De Gea because he is under pressure from Lamela and will eventually be under pressure from Ocampos as well. Or option number 3, which is just to clear it downfield. Now, if we had one of the best ball-playing goalkeepers in the world, the likes of your Edersons, your Alissons, your Manuel Neuers, they may have taken option 4, which is to drill this pass a little bit harder to either feed it into Lindelof with a pass that goes like this, or maybe play it a little bit harder through that gap here, as I believe Casemiro is just off your screen here. David De Gea opts to go for Maguire because Maguire has demanded the ball. But as we've just talked about, Maguire, his only assessment of this situation has been to look to his right and realise that Dalot or Lindelof is not here. So that means the only thing Harry Maguire can do in this situation, because he's 6'4" and he's very clumsy, so he's not going to be able to turn like someone like Lisandro Martinez would be able to do. The only thing he can do is try and either play the ball back to David De Gea or play the ball out to Wan-Bissaka. But, as you can see from the play in development here, both of those angles are closed down. If De Gea plays it to Maguire, he can't play it back to De Gea because it will go to Ocampos. He can't play it to Wan-Bissaka because it will go to Lamela. And obviously, as we know, he does that. Maguire gives it away trying to play it to Wan-Bissaka and Sevilla score and it's 1-0. Now, both players have to take responsibility for this. Both players. Maguire shouldn't give the ball away. Of course not. He should do everything in his power to just get rid of that ball the moment he receives it. However, David De Gea should never be playing this pass into Harry Maguire. The only options he has seriously got to keep this ball safe are to hoof it as far as he possibly can downfield, or, if he's good enough, play the pass out to Casemiro. But De Gea is not that good at doing that, so his only option was to clear it. He's chosen not to do that, so he takes partial blame, and of course Maguire takes blame for the second one, for actually losing the ball. That's my thoughts on the first goal. Let me know in the comments your feelings around that. I just feel like, again, If we had a better keeper with a better understanding of what to do in these situations, they'd have dealt with that situation better. Because there are only two options. Play a very difficult pass to Casemiro or Lindelof, which your top ball playing goalkeepers would do, or what the majority of other goalkeepers would do is just clear the ball and get it out. And there is no problem with doing that. Just because your instructions from the manager are to play it out from the back as often as you possibly can, that does not mean you ignore common sense when the common sense option is just to get rid of the ball. And De Gea has to take some responsibility for that. But that's the first goal. Then we now need to talk about the second goal, because the second goal, in my opinion, is just as bad. And this is where the whole notion of everyone's to blame comes into it. So here is the second goal. And apologies for the picture quality. I couldn't find a good enough screenshot on my phone. So this is literally a picture taken on my phone on the TV screen. So that's why it's all a bit grainy. But the principle still stands. This is how Manchester United line up to defend corners nowadays. And it's been something that's been going on for the last 2 or 3 years. And it seems to be the in thing in modern day football, where you do half zonal and half man marking. And I've been noticing a lot more since Jonathan Pearce mentioned it at the World Cup, with the amount of goals that were being scored from set plays due to no one being on the posts. But it all stems from this notion of man marking and zonal marking being a sort of a hybrid of the two. But the way that we do it, and the way that some other teams do it, is they do it like this, whereby Harry Maguire, our best header of the ball, is marking nobody. Victor Lindelof is marking nobody. Casemiro is marking nobody. Dalot is doing absolutely nothing. Luke Shaw is doing absolutely nothing. Anthony is there to cover the short pass out here. But what he should be doing is he should be standing on the halfway line, because Anthony is absolutely no use to us from a corner and he's our quickest player. So Anthony needs to be on the halfway line and Dalot should be where Anthony is, because he's not doing anything else. Secondly, instead of having Luke Shaw here, Luke Shaw should be on the post. It's just simple things like this. I don't understand this notion, and this is all the set pieces coaches, and this is what I want about in terms of everyone's to blame. The set piece coach takes responsibility, and the defensive coaches take responsibility for this goal. Because then what happens is, like we say, Maguire, Casemiro and Lindelof, our best headers of the ball, are marking nobody and just protecting this zone here. That means you've got Christian Eriksen marking 6'3" El Nassiri. You've got Marcel Sabitzer marking 6'4" Gudelj. And you've got, I believe it's Marcus Rashford marking the eventual goal scorer, who I know he scores off his shoulder, but he's being marked by Marcus Rashford. And it's not Rashford that challenges him for this ball, it's Harry Maguire, who has to get across in front because Rashford has let him go. But if you look at this picture right here, Marcialo Eriksen, whoever's supposed to be marking El Nassiri, has already lost them. Gudelj is already in front of Sabitzer, and the goal scorer, was it Bidet or something, whatever his name is, Baldy, or I can't actually remember the guy's name with the greatest respects to him, he's already lost Rashford. Obviously the cross comes in, he wins the ball, obviously it comes off his shoulder, and it loops over David De Gea, who once again concedes from a corner. Now, I know Robbie Savage was very critical of David De Gea on this goal, and understandably so. He should still be making at least more of an effort to save it than he actually did. But it then comes down to my other point about Luke Shaw. Luke Shaw is here. If Luke Shaw is standing on the goalpost, as a traditional defensive setup from a corner would be, Luke Shaw would clear this ball off the goal line, and David De Gea wouldn't even need to save it. More so, De Gea could be a little bit further out of his goal because he's got more protection because someone would be on the line. That's the second goal. That's how I see it. And that's what I mean about, again, everyone is to blame for this. De Gea should have done better. The defensive setup should be better. All three people marking their runners should do better. But because of the set piece coaches, those three players should not be marking those three players in the first place. And our best headers of the ball should be covering the play. And if Anthony was on the halfway line, instead of standing here doing near to nothing, or at the respect of Dalot, who should be here, meaning Anthony could be upfield, then Sevilla wouldn't be committing this many players forward either. And this all is defensive problems that so many teams are facing right now because there is just this obsession with this half-man, half-zonal defending. Doesn't work for me. I don't like it one bit. It's something that, in my opinion, needs to be removed from Manchester United's playbook. And I've got the stats on my phone right here. Over the course of the 90 minutes, Sevilla had a total of 8 corners. Sevilla won the ball on 7 of those corners. Manchester United won 1 defensive header from 7 corners. Now, granted, one of those corners went short, so you can't really count that one. But that means on 6 occasions, Sevilla put a ball into the box tonight from a corner, and a Sevilla player won the ball. That's unacceptable. Then we have to talk about the rest of the game as a whole. And this is where I get really disappointed. Because, once again, I'm sat here talking about a lack of effort. I'm sat here talking about a lack of quality. And I'm sat here essentially talking about a lack of game plan. As someone watching that game tonight, what did you think Manchester United's game plan was? Because from minute 1, there was just no cohesion whatsoever. Players were walking around, they were playing soft passes, they were sloppy, they weren't making runs. When they were defending, they just weren't tracking runners. Walking back in the midfield, Eriksen on several occasions was caught walking back after an attack. Sabitzer was out of position because he was pushing too far forward when Martial was dropping too far wide or too far deep, meaning Casemiro was isolated once again. He was having to deal with 2 players in the midfield. He couldn't cover them both, which meant he was then moved out of position. There were just gaps all over the place. So you've got to ask yourself about the fitness of these players. Should Christian Eriksen have been playing 2 games in the space of 4 days? He was rushed back from injury. We know this. He's only just come back. He wasn't supposed to start against Nottingham Forest at the weekend. Marcel Sabitzer was. Eriksen started that game instead. And he's come into this game tonight and he looked absolutely unfit as anything. And I know I have my complaints about Fred, as we all do. But what we needed tonight was a performance where everyone gave it their all. And as much as I moan about Fred, you cannot complain about his work rate and his ethics towards how you should play football. And if Fred was playing instead of Christian Eriksen tonight, I would think 75% of Sevilla's attacks in that first half wouldn't have happened. Because Fred would have been all over it immediately. And that, again, comes down to a combination of the management, the coaching, and the fitness staff. Why was Christian Eriksen not fit? Because we've got some of the best fitness coaches in the world. Why was he not fit after playing 4 days earlier? If it's because he's not fit and because he's actually still recovering from an injury, then why has Erik ten Hag picked him twice in 4 days? From there, I don't really know what to say. It's just an absolute shambles of a performance. And you got to talk about the mentality of the players, the sports psychologists. We have sports psychologists at Manchester United. I know back in the day you were just told if you have a bad performance, you just get up and get on with it. But we've been playing well for the last few games. Yes, we had a minor collapse in the first leg, but it happens. Our other 3 games recently have been very, very good. We were fantastic against Everton. We put in one of our best performances of the season against Nottingham Forest. And we've gone from a game where we've put ourselves about all over the pitch to a game where we just looked unwilling to run again. And I don't understand it. I don't understand the mentality of these players to just go from such a high level, such a high intensity performance to then not produce the same amount of effort a few days later. And again, that could come down to the training. Has Erik ten Hag unnecessarily worked these players too hard this week in training? When we've got massive games coming up, including this game, we've got Brighton at the weekend, then we've got Tottenham away in the Premier League. What sort of response are we going to get this time? Is Erik ten Hag going to get them in tomorrow morning, make them go on another 10k run to make up for the lack of ground they covered tonight, meaning that they're going to be knackered for the Brighton game at the weekend and we do this all over again? Who's to say? There's just so much disarray at the moment in this football club, and it's just, I don't quite understand some of the decision making that's going on. And I'm not pinning this on Ten Hag. Like I say, everyone is to blame for tonight's performance. You then have to look at the recruitment. Wout Weghorst did absolutely nothing when he came on. Sabitzer has been good. Clearly he was still carrying his injury from the other day, and perhaps he shouldn't have been playing. He's been our one decent recruitment this season, but we've been so desperate for a number 9. We were so desperate for defensive cover this evening because Maguire clearly has lost the plot. I don't understand the decision to take Wan-Bissaka off at half-time. Just baffling that, in my opinion. You take off your best defender when you know the opposition are going to be hitting you hard on counter-attacks. I don't understand that in the slightest. I'm really, really at a loss for words tonight. And look, we could talk about the third goal. We could talk about David De Gea all day long. I've said since day one of this season that I would still have got rid of David De Gea in the summer. And he takes full responsibility for the third goal. I don't know what he's trying to do. He's probably trying to redeem himself because he feels responsible for his part in the first goal and his part in the second goal. But to me, that just sums up David De Gea. He has no idea what he should be doing with a football at his feet. He has no commanding presence on the football field. And a top-level goalkeeper needs to have those two things in world football right now. Your best goalkeepers have to have a commanding presence. They have to dominate both their defence and the opposition attack. And when they come out of their goal, they need to be responsible. And on more than one occasion tonight, De Gea decided to go on a wander, which he never ever does. And on every single occasion, he looked shaky. You even saw it after the first one in the first half. Harry Maguire turned round to him and went like this. So De Gea has just come out without telling his defence that he's going to do so. And this is a goalkeeper that these defenders know doesn't normally come out. So for him to just do that is absolutely baffling. And obviously, he's come out for the third goal. He's given the ball away. And it's a brilliant finish from El Nassiri to make it 3-0. But tonight has very much highlighted all of the frailties surrounding Manchester United at the moment. And a big job still needs to be done in the summer regarding, like I say, recruitment, regarding this takeover, if it's going to happen or is it not going to happen, who's responsible for making those decisions. We need more clarity about what's going to happen because the longer the takeover drags on, the longer until the actual issues surrounding the football club will get addressed. And it's very, very worrying because we're going into a transfer window where a lot of high quality players are going to be available on the market. And if we're not in if we're not in charge of our own business, we will lose out and we will fall behind the others. So that's more looking ahead to the summer. But like I say, these issues have to be brought up on a night like tonight because they are the foundation of why the team has underperformed on the football pitch. From now, we look ahead to a game against Brighton at the weekend, which, in the grand scheme of things, it may not be the worst idea to tactically lose, but I mean, I'm not being funny. Even the way we were playing against Nottingham Forest and against Everton and against Brentford, it had been a very tough game against Brighton this weekend. If we play like we did tonight, we're looking at the back end of another several goal thrashing from a very, very good Brighton side. And the reason I speak about tactically losing is because we all know Manchester City are going to beat Sheffield United. And good luck to Sheffield United. Obviously, I hope Sheffield United get the win. But let's be realistic. Manchester City will be waiting for the winner of Brighton and Manchester United in the final. And if we do pull off a freak result, pull off a brilliant performance to somehow beat Brighton this weekend, we're not beating this Manchester City team the way they're playing at the moment. We could be our absolute tip-top best and we'd probably still lose 3 or 4-1. We play like we did tonight against Manchester City, you're looking at double figures at least. So I'm not looking forward to the game on Saturday because I just don't know what's going to happen. I obviously, in my heart of hearts, still want us to beat Brighton, but a part of me doesn't want us to. And a large part of me doesn't even think we're capable of doing so. Then we have to look to Thursday night next week, where we travel to Tottenham in a game that is absolutely pivotal in our Champions League status for next season. We've lost our best route. I don't care what anyone says. Winning the Europa League was the easiest way and the most effective way of qualifying for the Champions League. We were, on paper, the best team in this tournament after Arsenal were eliminated, and we should have been winning this trophy. Winning this trophy would have also meant we went into the Champions League as a top seed for next season. Now the best we can do is finish in the top 4, which will mean we will go in at best as a second seed for next season. But that all hinges on the game at Tottenham next Thursday night, a week from today. So I would be making changes for the Brighton game with an eye on the Tottenham game, because as good as it would be to get into another major final, firstly, I think it's a task very difficult. Secondly, I don't think we have any chance of beating Man City. And thirdly, we've already won a trophy with the League Cup, so we don't need the FA Cup as well. The focus has to be next Thursday night and securing Champions League football by getting a result at Tottenham. And whatever happens at the weekend, that still needs to be the main focus. So that is my hopes going forward. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below about all the things I've discussed tonight. I know I've gone into massive detail about several things, but please let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. I will be back tomorrow morning with my predictions and my fantasy football video for the upcoming Premier League game week, and then my FA Cup predictions will be on Saturday morning. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you in one of those videos.